All right. Well, thank you all very much for coming to Google I/O. We really appreciate it. My name is Seth, and I'm the Product Management Director for the Google Plus platform.
I'm David, the Engineering Director for Google Plus platform.
Cool. So we're going to take you guys through an overview of the various tools that are available from the Google Plus platform today. And first, we just wanted to start, this is very new, the Google Plus platform, so we just wanted to start with what is the platform really about? What are we trying to accomplish? And at a very high level, we're trying to help bring the best of Google to the rest of the internet and enable a user to bring their internet back to Google. So it's really creating a connection between a user and their Google experience and the rest of the internet, and everything that they experience on the internet back to Google. So you're kind of wondering, what does that actually mean, right? Well, let's just drop right into a story. So let's say that I'm doing a map search, and I'm kind of like, OK, I want to see a movie tonight. And as I'm doing the search, I get a notification, right? And you guys have probably seen this before, the red square with a white number in it, the notifier that's across all Google properties. So I just got a notification that dropped in on me when I was on Google Maps, and I click it. And so when I click that, I see come up a message from David, and he's saying, hey, let's grab dinner tonight. OK, so I want to see more, what is David actually trying to say to me? So I go ahead, and I click that, and I get the full post that came in. And it looks like David shared something from OpenTable. And it says, let's grab dinner and movie tonight. How about 00, which is a local restaurant? So I'm like, OK, well, let's see what 00 is about. There's a very clear action button right there, a view menu button. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that. And when I do so, I just get taken straight to OpenTable, right into their site. And I go right to the menu page in OpenTable. So I see what comes up, and I kind of scroll through the menu, and I think, yeah, this is actually a pretty good place. Why don't we go ahead and make a reservation? So I'm going to find a table. I'm going to get a bunch of options. And I'm going to click click 545. And in order to make a reservation in OpenTable, of course, you have to log in, right? Because they need to know who you are. So OpenTable is one of the many people who have integrated Google Plus Sign-In, which you saw a little bit about at the keynote address. So I'm going to go ahead and choose to sign in with Google. And when I do that, I get a standard consent dialog that comes up and says, hey, this is the information you're going to send about yourself to OpenTable. And this is the information from OpenTable that's going to come back to Google. So I'm going to go ahead and accept and sign in to OpenTable. Now, this is really special, what just happened. Right here, Google just noticed that I actually have an Android device. And because I have an Android device, which does not yet have the OpenTable application on it, we're proactively asking me if I'd like to download the OpenTable Android app, right? It's the absolutely smoothest experience for a user to get a mobile application onto their phone. All of this happening when a user chooses to connect on the web. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to say, yes, I'd like to install the OpenTable app. So of course, I'm on the web, right? I've just gone through the sign-in flow. I'm now signed in. And because I'm signed in, my reservation is now confirmed. So I've just gone ahead and made a reservation on OpenTable for dinner for David and I tonight.
So now we're planning our evening out together, and Seth took care of dinner, so I decided, let's see if I can find a movie for us to go to. And I like to use Fandango to buy my movie tickets, so I go to Google, search for Fandango. And what I see is not only I can find Fandango, but I also see some great suggestions for movies that other people who use Google and Fandango have been interested in lately. And it reminded me, oh, I've been meaning to see the new Iron Man movie. Let me check it out. So I go ahead, click on Iron Man, and there, right in Fandango, is the trailer. I watch the trailer. It is going to be awesome. Enough things explode. I definitely want to go see this tonight. So I go ahead, and I'm going to buy some tickets, but I'm also going to tell Seth, you should check this out, because I just bought us tickets. We're going to have a great time at this movie.
So when David shares that with me from Fandango, I get a notification, once again, on any Google property, including on my Android device. So I just pull out my Android device, which I got a notification on, and I see, looks like David shared something with me, so I'm going to go ahead and click into that, see what happens, tap into it, as the case may be. So I tap in, and I see he's buying tickets at 6 p.m. tonight. Now, that's a small problem, because as you'll remember, I made my reservation for 5:45 at dinner. So I'm going to have to fix this conflict. So we're now on my mobile phone, obviously, so I'm going to go to my application launcher. I have OpenTable on my phone already because I downloaded it when I was initially registering with OpenTable. And when I go ahead and tap on OpenTable, like you guys just saw in the keynote this morning, I am already connected. I am already signed in on the mobile device. I don't have to touch anything. OpenTable just knows who I am, and the application is completely relevant to me because I've already connected on the web. So OpenTable has my dining points. They have my profile picture, my name, all the standard kind of information about me. And of course, they also have my reservations that I've already made. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on 00, the reservation that I made for David and I tonight. And that'll bring me into the reservation, and I can go ahead and change that reservation. So that story, I think, illustrates a completely seamless experience where all the technology, all the computing just kind of fades into the background, right? And it was so easy for David and me to coordinate, in this case, dinner and a movie this evening, right? Just one simple fluid flow from the user's perspective, right? OpenTable just appeared on my phone. Once I connected to OpenTable on the web, I was connected to OpenTable on mobile. It just knew who I was. David found things in search, based on what other people were doing inside Fandango, right? Fandango was telling Google, hey, here's what's happening inside our application, and we brought the best of Fandango to users as they did a search. So one simple fluid flow that just makes computing kind of fall into the background. Now, we launched Google Plus Sign-In just 2 months ago, so it's really new. And we thought we'd tell you a little bit about what we're hearing from the market. So one of the launch developers, the Fancy, proactively emailed us and said this. And we were like, hey, guys, that's awesome. Can we tell everybody else what you guys just told us? Right? And what they're telling us is the conversion they're seeing from Google Plus Sign-In is besting that of other social networks across every platform, Android, iOS, web. And then from another one of our launch partners, from The Guardian, they told us that on Android, 41% of their users are choosing Google Plus Sign-In, and that it is the #1 social sign-in option on Android. Last night, we held a dinner for some of our partners who you can see in the sandbox later today. And one of those partners implemented Google Plus Sign-In 3 weeks ago. And they shared with David and I last night that in those 3 weeks, Google Plus Sign-In has literally become the #1 social login choice for users who are connecting with their application. So some other stats, 40%. This blew our minds. When a user is asked, do you want to install the Android app when they're on the web, right? So that flow you saw in OpenTable, where when a user is connecting with your application on the web, 40% say, yes, I do want to install the app. There is no higher conversion mechanism that I know of to enable a user to install your Android application, right? 40% of users who are asked if they'd like to install an Android application through that flow are saying yes. That is incredible. And then another stat, those interactive posts, right, where David shared with me the menu in OpenTable, and then shared with me that he'd like to go see Iron Man 3 from Fandango. Those interactive posts are getting 3 times the engagement rate of a normal post inside Google, right? 3 times. When we saw that, that was kind of the sleeper hit of Google Plus Sign-In. We just did not expect we'd get that level of engagement from sharing inside an app. And in retrospect, it's really obvious, right? We're giving users a really clear call to action. David's not just saying, hey, I'm sharing something from OpenTable. He's saying, click here to view the menu. I want you to do something. I want you to engage with me. And that turns out to be very, very powerful. So in sum, what you can see is we've created an experience that's just completely seamless for a user, right? It just makes it so easy to just live your life on a daily basis and use a service that you trust, like Google+, to connect with applications and to bring the best of your Google experience with you to the rest of the internet, and then that rest of the internet back to Google, and now you can see it in action. So now David's going to walk through some very specific products and how to actually make them work.
Thanks. So Seth gave you the overall context. You saw the story. we're connecting what you do on Google to what you do everywhere else. And I'm going to walk through in not a deep dive, but a sort of medium deep dive on 8 different features. I'm going to talk about 4 features that are really about how we take what happens in your apps, what happens as users are browsing your site, and how we can bring that into Google. And then we're going to talk about 4 features that go the other direction and take the power of Google, the capabilities of Google, and help bring them into your app. Let's get started with first feature. This is a very straightforward feature. Someone's looking for you on Google. They're doing a search. They're trying to find your brand, your product, your presence, your company, whatever it is. And in addition to the normal results over on the left, we also have this panel on the right where you can see here's recent posts from National Geographic. Here's the conversation, the information that I'm trying to get out to my audience now. So what did it take to do this? This one actually doesn't take coding. This one just takes set up a Google Plus page, and once you've set up the page, use it. If you have something to say to your users, say it. Share things, and when you share them, and people search for you in Google, we'll show it up in Google. Very simple way. It's probably the simplest way to start having a conversation with your users inside Google from your app. All right, let's go a tiny bit deeper and say that we also want to affect some of the things that appear on the left side of search, right? In the ads and in the organic search results in the sort of the main section there on the left. If you notice up at the top, you can see that this ad, because a lot of people have been interacting with this advertiser, we can highlight that. We think that's useful information to people viewing the ad, so we highlight it. And similarly, you can see that in the search results, if people, me or people I care about, have said, hey, I'm interested in this piece of content, I recommend this piece of content, we highlight that. That's useful information to people searching, so we're going to show that. So how do you send those signals over to Google so Google knows that this might be information worth highlighting? Pretty simple. You put a couple buttons on your site. You put a follow button if you want people to follow your presence. You put a +1 button if you want people to recommend your site, recommend your content. And what we're seeing is really exactly what we expect. When we pick the signals that we choose to highlight and feature in Google search, we pick them because we think they matter to people. And the results we're seeing are they do matter. People find those to be more interesting, more compelling, more reasons to click on those results. All right, let's go on to another feature. So you saw this in the story. You saw that there was this capability where right in Seth's experience of using Google, whether he happened to be in Maps or he happened to be in Search or he happened to be in Gmail, a notification came in which took him to this message I sent. I had sent a post out there that I said, Seth, this is for you. I'd like you to check this out. And I did it in a way that was in context, that was really in the flow of what Seth is doing, what we were doing together, so he had a reason to engage with it. So how do you do this? How do you help users do this? Short answer is copy and paste that into your page next. Slightly longer answer, and I'm going to go a tad bit deeper on this one because there's a pattern here, which is the way that we do all of the rich interactive capabilities that we let you drop into your website. And the pattern is you put in one line of JavaScript, but you put it in once. It's sort of amortized over all of the different social capabilities from Google that you might want to include. You put in that one line, and then everything else is putting in markup on the page, just like all the other elements on your page, with enough information for us, Google, to know how to render it and what to do with it. So in this case, you see at the top of this button markup that the class is g-interactive post. That tells us that you want us to render that as a share button that lets Seth share a message with me, lets me share a message with Seth. You also told us what should happen when someone clicks on it. So if you go through it, you can see that the call to action is view menu, right? We didn't guess that that was a view menu. You decided that this, in this case, the action that you wanted to facilitate was viewing a menu. And you also told us where should it go if he clicks. You told us some other information to display. You gave us all the information we need to render this. I should point out that all of the examples that we're going through today are shown in the HTML version, the web version of it. There are exactly equivalent capabilities for Android using the Android SDK style for iOS. So we didn't want to go into all of the different syntactic details, but conceptually it's exactly the same thing. You tell us the information that we need to render it, and then the benefit, of course, interactive post button shows up, users share, gets those conversations going, triggers those 3x interaction rates. All right, let's go on to one more way that we give you as an application developer a way to get the information about how people are using your app into Google in a way that's useful to users and therefore useful to you. Again, you saw this in the demo. I searched for Fandango, and I saw not only information about Fandango in general, I saw information about how people using Google Plus and Fandango are using Fandango. And in this case, I could see, here's the information about what's popular with Google Plus users who are also using Fandango. Can see what the movies are that they have been watching trailers of recently, can see a little metadata about it, and I can see a way to click into it. So how did this happen, right? How is it that Google now knows enough about what people are doing on Fandango to be able to make search results better? And what Fandango did in their application is they put a little bit of code in that, again, short version is they told us. How did we know? They told us. Well, how did they tell us? They specified the user action. We have a predefined vocabulary of about a dozen different actions so far that's covered many dozens worth of partner integrations, so we're happy with what we're finding with the initial. They said, in this case, it's someone has discovered something. What did they discover? There's the URL to the movie they discovered. And then there's just a call at the bottom that says, go ahead and make this API call to write this activity. We call it a moment internally. Write this activity to Google. And that's it. One more thing I'll point out that came before all this is you noticed when Seth went through the flow, there was a permission dialog where we said to the user, hey, is it okay if Fandango, if OpenTable writes information to Google? The user said yes. The user decided who could see it. You as a developer don't have to worry about that. What you know is that user has already said it's okay for you to tell Google, here's what happened. And then it's between us and the user to use that information correctly and wisely and in a way that adds value, both to the person doing the activity and to the other people who might care about it. Okay, so we just talked about 4 different features for getting information from your app, from your site, into Google. Let's talk about 4 features that go the other way and get information and services from Google to help make your app, make your site better. We're going to start with the absolute basics. You can't do anything with the user if you don't know who the user is, right? You can't provide a better experience without knowing who you are providing the experience for. So you've seen this. I think you probably couldn't get off the escalator. You couldn't use the Google I/O app without seeing the sign in with Google capability, the button, and you see it's really easy as a user. You click the button and you're in. So what did the app developer need to do? What did OpenTable need to do to put that button on their site? Well, you're going to see it's a very familiar pattern. They still had that one line of JavaScript. They still put in one piece of markup that said, hey, I want a button. In this case, the button, instead of being a G-interactive post button, is a G-sign-in button. And again, you provide just enough information for Google to do the right thing with that sign-in. So what information do you need to provide? Well, you need to tell us, first line there that's called scope, is you need to say, what permissions are you asking the user for? You're asking the user to trust you to access Google. What trust are you asking for? Simplest case is you just say you want to log in. Great. A lot of good integrations done that way. But because it's all one Google and all one user, and you get to ask for more capabilities. So if, for example, you want to also access your users' calendars, just add another scope saying, hey, may I touch your calendar? If you want to access their YouTube channels, maybe help them subscribe, just add another scope saying, hey, may I access YouTube? May I access your Drive? May I get your email address? There's a whole set of all of what Google offers is all available as an option for you to ask your user, would you like to let me do this? Because I'm going to give you a better experience. That's the scope. A few other pieces of information. How do you want, what's the callback flow, the mechanics of actually making this work. But you put that markup on your page, and we will render a sign-in button and take it from there, and you'll get called back with the permission token, the authorization token that you need to go ahead and do deeper things. Okay, so that's the basics. First step, you have to let the user sign in. Next thing Seth showed you is, well, after the user signed in, we kind of magically said, hey, user, you might want this app. Did you know I have an app? Check it out. It's kind of cool. And 40% of users say, yes, that's very interesting. Thank you. Why is that? It's because it's in context, right? It's like I'm offering the user something that we know is relevant to them right now, and that's why, not surprisingly in hindsight, a lot of people are saying yes to it. So what extra work did you as a developer have to do to enable this second screen in the sign-in flow? And you're going to have to look pretty closely to see what's different, because not a lot is different. This is that same G-sign-in button. The one thing that's different is at the bottom, we said, oh, by the way, here's my Android app. And then there's some work in the console where you set it up to say, hey, I have a project that actually has a couple of pieces to it. But once you've set it up, all you have to do is tell us about it. And now we know that it's OpenTable. Whether it's OpenTable.com, OpenTable on Android, it's all the same application. So it's a good time for me to prompt the user to say, let's install this app. And that's enough for us to find it in the Play Store and do all the other pieces of plumbing needed. You add a line, we take care of the rest. All right, so this is actually the news that we announced in the keynote this morning. This is the freshest piece of news that you're going to see in this talk today. As you saw what Seth demonstrated, there was a missing piece of UI and there's a missing piece of code here, right? So there's no code to support the no UI that was demoed. So what is it that we didn't show you? Well, what we didn't show you as a user is after Seth pulled out his phone, tapped on OpenTable, he didn't have to log in. He didn't have to say who he was. He didn't have to type a password. He didn't have to do anything else, because why should he? He has already signed into OpenTable, and he's already told his phone who he is. That's enough. So how do you as a developer enable that cross-client single sign-on? The answer is that console I alluded to before, just tell us. Tell us it's the same app. So you've told us your website, you've told us your app, you tell us that they're the same thing, and we take it from there. That's it. We will take care of both the download option and the seamless cross-platform sign-in. All right, last feature that I'm going to drill a little bit into is what you see here is we're on Forbes, user is browsing the website, reading an article, they're done with the article, and up came a teaser to say, here's some other content on Forbes that you might be interested in reading. They clicked through, they saw some content. I'm going to take a chance here and go back. That was fast. We'll see how far back I go. Let's see. Okay, here I am reading it. I'm watching the, yeah, okay, I'm getting the nod. So here I am on this site. I'm reading Forbes.com on my mobile phone, reading an article. Watch what happens when I'm done reading the article and start to scroll back up. Oh, bottom of the screen, open this recommendations tab. I look through, I find other content that's interesting to me, I pick on it, and now I'm reading more content on Forbes. So this is something we just announced and launched on Monday. This is available to all of you. What does it take to implement this, right? We're adding a significant new capability to your mobile website. You've now added a whole new user exploration and browsing capability built on a lot of different signals about what users are reading and what common content is relevant to what other content, what are other articles written by the author, using a whole bunch of things. How do you put that onto your site? And the answer is, remember that one line of JavaScript I keep referring to? Just put it on your site, and there's a console where you check a box saying, yes, please, I want mobile content recommendations, and you get them. And we do the rest. That same partner dinner that Seth was talking about last night, we were talking to a couple of developers who were kind of jet-lagged because they had just flown in from Turkey. And before getting on the plane in Turkey for their flight to Google I/O, so they could be in the sandbox here, they read about our announcement. And they said, oh, that sounds pretty neat. So they got off the plane, and they added mobile content recommendations to their website and had it done before they got to their hotel. And that was what we were hoping were the kind of stories that we would hear. And Tamandir in Turkey now has mobile content recommendations. You have to read Turkish on your phone to be able to appreciate the quality or equality of the recommendations. But that's how mobile content recommendations work. All right, so you just saw a medium deep dive. I'm going to let Seth put a little bit of context around all of this.
So as you guys can see at the beginning, we said that the Google Plus platform was really about connecting a user's Google experience with your applications and letting the user take the best of what they're finding inside your applications, inside your websites, and bringing it back to Google. Right? And now I think you can see some of the features that are really making this happen. So if we know, for example, that a user is connecting with your application on your website, guardian.co.uk, and we know that they have an Android device, we can say to that user, hey, do you want the Android app? because the user's probably really interested in your Android app because they're choosing to connect with you. Or giving users in your application an incredibly rich way for them to share what they're doing right now inside their application and asking their friends at Google across all Google properties to join you, right? If the friends at search, if they're in Maps, if, no matter where they are, YouTube, they will see that notification and click on it and see what their friend wants them to do inside your property. So it's a seamless experience for users, right? And it's a seamless experience for developers to make this all reality. And if you think about what we're really trying to do for all of you, the developers, other than hopefully create something that's really, really easy to integrate and create a great user experience, it really gets down to some of the core business metrics that you guys care about, right? Every one of these features is designed in one way or another to either bring you more users, right? Help your content get discovered across all Google properties, in Maps, in Search, on people's Android phones, in Google Plus Stream. No matter where people are in Google, help them find more of your content, right? And then what Google does best is send people traffic that's relevant and engaged, right? When someone clicks on that View Menu button or watch a video button or read an article or comment, they are going to your mobile app or they are going to your website because they have something that they specifically want to do. They are very, very likely to engage because their friend asked them to take a very specific action, right? So a bunch of these features are designed to bring you more traffic from Google. Another kind of core goal is drive you more engagement inside your mobile apps or inside your websites. We got asked frequently when we launched on just Monday, so just 2 days ago, we launched the mobile content recommendations that you saw from Forbes. And we got asked, why did you launch it on the mobile web first? The answer is we talked to a lot of publishers, and we're finding out from them, kind of the dynamics of their businesses. And they told us, hey, our #1 problem for users on mobile web is that they bounce. There is no engagement. They come in from the Google Plus stream or a Twitter stream or a Facebook stream. They read one article for like 15 seconds and they leave. And I never had a chance to keep that user inside my property, right? We knew mobile web was the problem because users who already had the Android app or an iOS app, they stay longer. So we chose to solve the problem for mobile web first, where the developers and the publishers were having the biggest pain point, right? So features designed to drive more engagement, more page views, more time inside your site, or the seamless single sign-on, right? That was announced at I/O this morning. If you are able to have a user connect once on your desktop website or once on your mobile app, because it works both ways. It goes from desktop web to mobile, and it goes from mobile back to desktop web. The user connects once, and you now know who that user is across your entire service, right? This is not about a user connecting with you on mobile and then separately you on desktop, but rather it is you forming a relationship with your user and your service no matter what device they're on. And you can now give them a completely relevant experience, which hopefully enables you to drive more engagement with that user no matter the property, and also monetize better, because you now know what a user is more interested in, your own statistics, right? You know what a user is doing across your different properties. So more page views. And then finally, more seamless, right? We are trying to create a completely integrated experience for a user across mobile and web, mobile and desktop. To users, they don't really think, oh, I'm looking at CNN on my, Android, and then I'm looking at, CNN on my iPad, and then, oh, it's CNN on desktop. They just use CNN, right? They just use fancy or beauty-lish. So to them, it's about a relationship with you and your service. And we're trying to enable all of you to create that completely seamless experience for the users. So we've been doing a lot. David's engineering team, my product team, have been very, very busy. A bunch of you are in the audience, so thank you very much. We launched Google Plus Sign-In 2 months ago at the end of February. And if you look at the pace with which we've been issuing new product updates and bringing new capabilities to market, right? By early April, Gigyan Janrain made Google Plus Sign-In available to thousands and thousands of developers to integrate very simply with their platforms. And then we took the app activities that you're able to write us when a user connects with Google inside your app and began making them available in search. First in movies and in music, right, with people like Fandango and Slacker and Shazam. And of course, more verticals to come. But get that social activity into search so we can provide users a much more relevant, engaging experience in search and drive you more engaged users back to your applications. And then we did the content recommendations just a few days ago, right? Driving more traffic, driving more engagement inside your mobile websites, letting users discover content they simply would not have discovered. Developers, publishers were losing traffic in mobile web because users didn't have a good way to find interesting content, right? And so now we've created a way for those users to find something that's truly interesting, truly special, based on what the article is about that they're reading or what their friends have liked inside that given property. And then just today, seamless authentication, right? User connects on mobile, on a mobile app, and when they load your service on a web browser, they are just connected. And trust me, there will be much more to come very quickly. We're going to stay very busy to keep driving this connection between Google and the rest of the internet, and hopefully bring a lot of value to both users and you, the developers. So we're here at Google I/O. This is an overhead shot of the Google Plus sandbox that's out there. I very much invite you guys to go see all the different publishers, all the different developers that have come to Google I/O with really stellar Google Plus integrations, right? So there are over 50 developers outside who have various forms of interesting integrations with Google Plus sign-in, with content recommendations, with over-the-air installs, interactive posts, kind of lots of different stuff is on display there, which could hopefully give you some ideas. I think it's about 20 developers every day that are going to cycle through day 1, day 2, and day 3. So you'll have lots to look at. If you come back tomorrow, there'll be a new set of folks to get inspiration from. I really invite you to go take a look. A couple that I just thought were pretty cool. So Air New Zealand's here. And they have this, of course, Google Plus sign-in integrated. And when you sign in, they've done something a little special, right? It's send me your wish, which we thought was just cute. So you see your friends, right? And you can send a wish to your friends. And when you do that, you just go ahead, select a friend, type in a wish. It gets sent to Air New Zealand. And then, of course, you can let people know about it.
Seth, you left off the most important feature. You can also choose the fairy's wardrobe from her closet.
Really? That's good to know. I did not know that one. Or another one that we thought was really neat, Glamour. So David pointed out that you can get any Google permission here. So it happened really fast, but you can see that now I've signed in to Glamour using Google Plus Sign-In. I'm actually already subscribed to the YouTube channel, because one of the capabilities that YouTube has is to subscribe to their channels through an API. And that's one of many APIs that you could ask for. Like David said, you could have asked for access to someone's calendar to put events on their calendar, or asked for access to their drive. This is a really great example of someone going beyond just the straight social functionality and saying, hey, when someone connects with us, since we have an active YouTube channel, we'd like to have them subscribe to our YouTube channel too. And we thought that was pretty neat. So we've got a lot of sessions that are going to be happening over the next couple of days that are about the Google Plus platform. So this is the day 1. I encourage you guys to take a look. It's in your, the I/O application as well, where you can kind of scan through, or on developers.google.com/IO. So these are the day 1 activities, and then there's a bunch of activities on day 2 as well, all about how to really take advantage of these features that hopefully should be there to both create an awesome user experience inside your properties and drive you more unique users, right? More traffic, more engagement, right? More page views, and create a really seamless experience between mobile and web. So with that, I think we have a few minutes left, and we'd love to take any questions that you folks might have from the audience.
Yeah. There are a couple of microphones. Please use them, because this is also being live streamed. There's also for people who are watching at some of the remote events, there's a link that I'm told you can see next to the stream where you can submit questions online, and I've got that open if anyone finds that channel and wants to use it.
So go ahead.
Hi, Untitled Chapter from Mozilla. As part of the Google Plus platform, do you guys have any plans to support any of the social web standards, such as PubSub, Hubbub, co-developed by various Google folks, both for subscribing to Google Plus feeds in real time and being on Google Plus and being able to subscribe to feeds across the web in real time?
We have no immediate plans. We're obviously looked very closely at those standards. We have people who help build those standards. You've been part of the community that's helped define some of those standards. What we've looked at with a lot of aspects of Google Plus is really not just on autopilot following the model that made sense before and looking at each aspect of sharing, each aspect of relationships and saying, which ones do we know we want to replicate? Which ones do we know we want to do something new and different on? I'll get concrete in a second. And which ones do we not know yet, so we're going to go slow? So for example, on the basic relationship model, we knew that we wanted to not follow the standard model and introduce the concept of circles, and we think that has led to a whole richer set of engagement opportunities in the product and therefore ripples into how the platform works. Around the stream itself, we have been watching how the conversational environment evolves inside Google+, and we really like the kinds of conversations that are fostered in there. And we are leery that if we too easily allow people to do what could be perceived as junk mail entering the conversation or perceived as fragmenting the conversation, it would hurt the nature of and the quality of. So that's why we've been going very slowly around anything that provides that kind of stream access in either direction that you're talking about. There are some basic things out there, I'm sure you know about them, that we have a lot of partners who are using those basic things. There's a car out there where you can watch your Google Plus post in the Mercedes on one of the, I think they're on the 3rd floor, they've put something together, but nothing to say about the specific standards that you asked about.
How about the person in the back?
Sure, I love the automated app install on my Android phone. Is there anything you can do to make it automated on an iPad, or is that kind of Apple's decision?
Yeah.
And then the unrelated follow-up is, my main problem with sharing things on Google Plus is none of my friends know to click that red box in the upper right-hand corner of their toolbar. Is there any kind of more obvious way you could maybe I could just send things right into their email?
Yep. To your second question, the notifications on that go into Google. So a point I made is the Google Plus platform is very much about connecting a user with their entire Google experience, right, across all the properties with your applications, right? And you've seen lots of features from Android to search to maps. Those notifications are one of the things that we actually find users click on quite a fair amount. Now, one thing to note as a developer is we're very careful with the notifications. We heard from users when we were creating the sharing features with the Google Plus platform that users they're almost scared of spamming friends, right? They really don't want to spam friends. But when they do want to share to friends, they want to make absolutely certain that their friends are going to see something. And so the way we design the notifications is that if someone's specific name is called out in that sharing box, which actually as a developer, if you've pulled down the user's friends list, right, you now have my list of people in my circles. You can, even in your own UI, let me select friends and then choose to pre-populate, I think it's up to 10 names inside that box individually. And then those notifications will trigger. Just on the basis of a circle, the notifications won't trigger, because we think that that is too loud. If I shared something with a circle of 100 people, not all 100 people probably should get that notification. But if I actually chose to call someone specifically out, that person should get the notification. And not only will they get that notification across every Google property, they'll also get an email, as long as they haven't changed their default settings. So it's as close as we could get to guaranteed delivery.
It might be they're just ignoring you. I did a test with my family a little while ago where I'd been posting a fair number of things and hearing, a little bit, but some crickets back. So I did a sort of loud caps post saying, hey, could you just let me know if you get this? And they all said, oh yeah, we get it. We just didn't have anything to say to you before. It's like, okay.
To your second question about iOS, so as you probably noticed in the story throughout the presentation, every feature that we are launching in Google Plus platform is cross-platform for Android, iOS, and web, with the exception of the really super seamless one-click install from web to mobile. The only reason is because we cannot do that on iOS, right? We don't have quite the level of access in iOS that we would need to make that as seamless as possible for users to create a good user experience. If we could do it, we would, but right now we just can't. So it's the one feature that unfortunately we can't make cross-platform. Fire away.
Hi, this is Chris from Austria. You mentioned the possibility to connect the Android app with the Google Plus sign-in button on the website. Is there any mechanism or possibility to specify two apps? So I'm thinking of multiple app developers have a free version and a paid version, or even multiple apps. So is there any mechanism for this?
Yeah, so we've looked at that. We want to do that. We want to do it once we're sure that we have shut off the abuse potential of an ill-intentioned developer using that in a bad way. And we think we know how to do that, but until we're positive that we can get that right and handle all of that, we're going to go slowly there. So yeah, the use case you described is a great use case. There's another use case where some developers have a family of apps where they've chosen to provide like 3 kinds of functionality as separate top-level apps. It's a fine pattern, but we wanted to start with the one-to-one, which is what you saw, which covers the majority.
How about the person behind you? I think he's been waiting longer. Oh, yep, on the front. Yeah, Mike.
John Blossom, Shore Communications and Content Nation. I enjoy using the service. One thing that you just did, you activated comments in Blogger, which has been excellent. It's actually made me want to blog for the first time in a long time because I know that my community will come with me and stay engaged in the content. What's the roadmap for exposing that to mainstream publishers who may be interested in that sort of engagement? Are you getting feedback that they are in fact interested in it, on services such as HuffPost? Question 2, as long as I waited. It's a pain in the butt if you want to expose your content to the public, and you have specific circles you don't want to receive it. Like my dad really doesn't want to hear about everything that I do in my professional life. Public goes to him anyway, regardless. Is that ever going to change? So 2 things, thank you.
Great question. In terms of the second question, it's not on the roadmap. So right now, if you do choose public, that does go to everybody. Obviously, circles were designed to let you decide what to share with very specific people. I've actually not heard that request before, but duly noted. For the second, so like you said, we just put out comments in Blogger. It was our first shot at making comments really great and kind of crossing them between the conversation that's happening on Google Plus on a given topic and putting that into Blogger and making it available there. We've seen interesting demand and even a few hacks out in market trying to take those comments from that commenting system from Blogger and bring it into other sites. But we don't have anything that we could kind of announce on that at present.
Is it something that you'd be interested in using on sites you manage or sites you visit?
I think that a lot of folks would. I'm using it on my sites now because I'm using a blogging mechanism within our site.
Yep.
But just look at what happens, say, on the Huffington Post. People have options there. They can Facebook, they can Twitter.
Yep.
At minimum, there should be an X to be able to say that it's Google+. But it seems like what you're saying is you're creating the ability for them to create engagement much more efficiently with all these other things surrounding the commenting mechanism. So, this could be icing on the cake, it seems.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead.
You talked earlier about plus naming for notifications. I'm wondering what's the upper limit?
Sorry, could you start again? I couldn't hear you at first.
You talked earlier about plus naming for notifications. I'm wondering what's the upper limit for the number of people you can plus name in a post to get those to get those notifications that prevents my users from getting 10,000 emails with 10,000 other people's names in them.
Yep. Right now, I believe it's set at 10. So you can do up to 10 names specifically called out inside a share box, which you can pass into it. So if you built your own UI to let a user select names, you can pass it in. The user will then see the share box, and they'll see those names listed out. So we made sure that users would know exactly what's happening at each step. But right now it's 10.
The intent behind that is we're trying to, again, match real-world conversations where there's a mode of, I want to talk very directly to 3 or 4 people, and it's probably very important to me that they hear it, and they probably want to hear it. It's unlikely I want to start an intimate conversation with 97 people at once. Possible, but that's not the case we optimized for.
Thank you.
Cool.
Hi, Jonathan Frankel, School of Rock. This might be a little bit outside of the scope of what you were talking about, but we're really interested in if you have any plans, and if you do have any plans, are you willing to share plans to allow for some enterprise control of Google Plus accounts?
Sorry, enterprise control?
Yeah. So right now we can provision accounts in the cPanel. Obviously, we can enable Google Plus for the accounts in the cPanel, but we don't have any direct control over the Google Plus accounts. They're kind of connected to, but I guess separate from the Google account that we control. And yeah, I think it would be really useful for us. It seems like we could create a community, which would be very useful for us if we just had a little bit more top-down control.
Yeah. There's work happening there. I don't know their exact roadmap, but if you come find me afterwards, I can get your contact info and put you in touch with the product manager who's working to do that. It's what we find is that if we look at the world of all the people using Google Apps in their domain, there's a set of requirements that we have done that satisfy a chunk of the pie, and then there's a richer set of requirements before we can get the next set to say, yes, this works for me, and so on. And we're just working our way through that list. I don't know where your requirements would fit, but I can connect you.
Cool. All right, I guess we'll take the last question.
Alan Furstenberg. Can you elaborate a little bit on if and how the Google Plus moments are going to be integrating in any way with the Game Center?
So when we first announced Google Plus sign-in, we talked about app activities, or you're referring to them as moments. So just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that's how you as a developer or publisher can let us know what users are doing inside your apps. Now, we want to take that data and put it in the most interesting, most contextually relevant place for users, right? What we're not particularly interested in is only throwing them at people on a kind of timeline basis, right? Because if you read an article about Costa Rica right now, I don't really care, right? But if I start doing a search for Costa Rica, what my friend has written on Costa Rica, commented on Costa Rica, read about Costa Rica, I probably care. Or if I'm doing a map search for Costa Rica or San Jose, Costa Rica, I probably care then, right? So we want to take this information and use it in context, which would be a better user experience and send you all as developers and publishers more qualified traffic back. The first place we launched it was on people's profiles. So if I went specifically to your profile and you said, yes, I get access to that because I'm in a circle that you've named, then I can see it. And that's, we're not spamming it at people. But if I'm interested in what you're doing, I can go see what you've done in a given app. The second place that we publicly talked about was in search, right? And you saw us launch movies and music verticals into search using that same data. What I can certainly promise you is that you will continue to see the same kind of data roll throughout other Google properties where it makes sense. The way we think about it is that users have very specific intents as they use maps versus search versus play, as you mentioned, versus the Google Plus stream. And we want to make sure that we're doing a great job giving the users exactly what they would want based on the reason they're using a given product as we think about rolling that data out across Google. So thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. Please do stop by all the developers' booths outside in the sandbox.
Try out the new feedback mechanism. Love to hear what you think so we can tune this up for next time. And check the sandbox, check the other talks if you want to go deeper on any of the things we talked about. That's where you'll find the deep dives. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you all.